We start the weekend with the Texans at the Ravens, Saturday afternoon, 4:30 p.m. Eastern on ABC and ESPN. It's the biggest spread of the week, tied for the biggest spread of the week, along with the game later in the day. 9.5 points the Ravens are favored by, 43.5 over-under. The Ravens get the 2 weeks to get ready. They took the foot off the gas week 18. The Texans had to win a de facto playoff game in Indianapolis week 18. They looked great last weekend. I've been so twisted up over these one-seed games because we've seen it before. It's hard to envision it from this perspective going forward. We've seen it happen where the one seed loses under circumstances like this. They played in week one. It was a closer game than 25-9 would suggest when the Ravens won the game to start the season. Chris, I'm going to let you go here.
One, I do feel that, hey, the thing we've talked about from a few years ago with the Ravens sitting out, being the number one seed that year, I think that was a parade year. Like, oh, man, look, we were great. We won it, blah, blah, blah. Hey, we're the number one seed. Lamar was the MVP. I don't think they care about any of that crap this year. I don't. I think they've had their sights on Super Bowl all year long. I think they realized what they did a few years ago in that divisional game. I'm going to be shocked if the Ravens get caught sleeping here. Now, do I think that means they're necessarily going to come out and be hitting on all cylinders? No. I still think there'll be a little bit of, like what you said, a rust factor, a fact that we haven't played all that much, and the Texans have played 2 playoff games here down the stretch, so they're ready to go. But I think clearly the Ravens are the better football team. I think the other thing I look at, too, is I don't think, the Ravens they're a little more tactical. They're not as meatheadish of the Browns, right? The Browns, I just did not think they were going to be quite that blindly aggressive, right? Against a guy like C.J. Stroud and the Bobby Slowick offense and just go, oh, we're going to come out and get in their face and take a chance every play. The Ravens are different in the fact that they'll trust their front seven a little and go, okay, hey, you might run the ball on us here a little bit. You might get 3. You might get 5. So what? But we're not going to let you throw the 70-yard corner post or, some other big play. They're a little more protective of that. Let alone, I think they have more versatility in their defense compared to Cleveland. Cleveland, it was a little bit of like we just, like I'm explaining, this is what we do, up yours, we're in your face, bring it. Where Baltimore does a lot of different stuff, and they are specific to who they're playing against, and I think that they'll be very cognizant of not letting C.J. Stroud get home run shots down the football field. I think I look at it that aspect. I think Texans make some plays and some points, but ultimately I give the advantage to the Ravens defense. The other side of the ball, always respect D'Amico Ryans there. I do look at this one and go, I know they like to stop the run, and they got to worry about the run because the Ravens are much bigger than they are up front. The Ravens, of course, are pretty creative in the run game too, and that's where I think they're in a tough spot because it's how much do you go all in on the run where you know you're going to have an issue, and it's still Lamar Jackson and that passing game and the receivers that are definitely a notch up as compared to any other year we've seen Lamar Jackson in the playoffs. I like Ravens here, obviously. I'm going to say 27-17. One of those games where it might take them a little bit to get going, but they get going, and they clearly show us who the better team on the football field is.
Now, one of the things that I wonder about for this game, the extent to which each defense will successfully confuse the opposing quarterback based upon the pre-snap looks, based upon what happens once they have the ball. You were saying about how the Browns were going man with the Texans last week, and that was making it easier for C.J. Stroud to do whatever he needed to do, and the Browns were too aggressive. They were overreacting. The Texans used a lot of the tendencies that they saw against the Browns. They used their propensity to be overly aggressive against them on multiple occasions. So that is the game within the game here, and that's what makes postseason games harder to pick than regular season games because we're projecting how much time is actually being spent trying to figure out what we've done, what we're going to do, what they've done, what they might do, how we can crack their code, how we can keep them from cracking our code, and how we can make them think they've cracked our code and then dupe them by doing something that they're not expecting, whether it's a trick play, whether it's just a completely different look, a completely different formation, a completely different play off of a common formation, whatever it may be. And that's what has to make preparation for playoff games so maddening if you really are taking it seriously. So I'll start with the Texans. One thing that I've been meaning to ask you about.
Yeah.
Because I've noticed this with C.J. Stroud. I talked about it yesterday on the PFTPM podcast. I like watching him play in that he doesn't allow much of a pocket to form around him. He stays in the middle of the fray very often. Have you noticed that, where he gets the ball in shotgun and he almost kind of steps up and he's completely calm among all this stuff that's going on around him? He doesn't back away from it. He thrives in that chaos.
Yes.
And it makes it even more impressive what he's doing, that he can process. Take that S2 test. He can process everything that's occurring in this storm of activity. I'm sure other quarterbacks do it, but to me, that's just something that jumps off the screen when you watch CJ Stroud.
Totally agreed. It's a really good observation by you. It's one of the things that makes him special and shows a maturity about his game that is really rare for a rookie, right? Rookies usually want to get out anytime they feel any pressure. Oh, no. And for the most part, quarterbacks that are first rounders have been good enough to do that at every level to kind of go, wait, I can get out of here and make a play. And I've survived that way. Stroud is different. That's where he's got a little bit of that Joe Burrow, little Tom Brady sense in the pocket, where he knows going backwards is not a good thing. One, of course, you can't step into throws, but two, you actually make the angle easier for the pass rush on the edge, right? Those guys now don't have to turn a corner. They can kind of just go, wait, I can go 9 yards that way. He steps up in the fray, but has the confidence to know, to what you're saying, stepping up actually is going to protect me. I'm going to have more people around me, and I got to, like you're saying, not flinch and still look down the field. But I'm actually more secure here than I would be if I just got the shotgun and took a few steps and then stayed back there. Something I learned in my days with Josh McDaniels and working in New England, they had the 6.5-yard rule. I think I told you that before, where they wanted to snap the ball, the quarterback being shotgun around 5 and 5.5 yards behind the center, but you weren't allowed to go, excuse me there as I choke on myself, past 6.5 yards. And if you got to 6.5 yards, you had to start pushing up because the tackles now have a frame point of where Brady would be, and I know he's not going to be that deep. So I can push the guy around or ride him as he goes around the pocket. And that's the beauty of what C.J. Stroud is. Very rare to see a rookie quarterback do that, Mike. That's a good observation by you.
Okay. So let's take it the next step then.
Yeah.
If I see it, the Ravens see it.
Right.
And here it is, winner take all, high-stakes game. They've had 2 weeks to get ready. Who knows how much time they spent preparing for the various teams until they knew what was going to happen. But at some point, you lock onto the Texans. What do you think the Ravens will do to counter that? Do you think they'll send a lot of heat up the middle? That's the best way to disrupt it.
Yes.
If you get somebody in his face, if you shove the guards or the center into C.J. Stroud, that disrupts what he's doing. And what's it all about? It's about taking away what a guy does best, what he wants to do. He clearly likes doing that.
Yes.
He clearly wants
100%.
to do that.
Right.
So that's my question as I consider the Ravens' defense. Are they going to change what they normally do to suit the effort to keep C.J. Stroud from settling in 3 or 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage and letting all this chaos happen around him? Are they going to try to get bodies through the middle, shove guards into him, hit him in that kind of mini short pocket that he loves to be in?
Yep.
That's where I would assume that under John Harbaugh and Mike McDonald, the Ravens are going to have something for this tendency that is obvious when you watch the Texans.
I think so. They're a little, Mike, I think to what you're saying here, they're a little bit like that naturally anyways. A little bit of they're like the Patriots in their prime of where they're not looking for one guy to come around the edge and get 20 sacks a year. That's not what they're about. They kind of work as a unit. They kind of believe in just let's collapse the pocket as a unit. And to your point there, as good as C.J. Stroud is at hanging in the pocket, making throws within the pocket, I would think we see some creative ways, Mike, of, hey, Jadeveon Clowney standing up right? We got defense that ends in, but Jadeveon Clowney and maybe somebody else are roaming around. They say set up, and they rush through the middle, and maybe the defense that ends drop back, but now it pushes it into Stroud's face, let alone they're a team that's very cognizant and conscious of being like that anyways. But I would think that, yes, that is going to be overemphasized this week as much as C.J. Stroud wants to hang in there and throw the ball down the field within that pocket like you're talking about.
You flip it around, what's D'Amico Ryan's going to do with a full season of film on the Todd Monken offense with Lamar Jackson running it extremely well? What do you try to take away? It's hard to completely shut it down. Lamar Jackson has shown he can do both things. Look, I think at the end of the day, I think 9.5 is too much here. And I've toyed with picking both 1 seeds to lose because I kind of think one of them might.
Right.
Or you just pick both to win because you can assume one of them will. I'm doing this, at least for the AFC game involving the 1 seed. I'm going to pick the favorite to win, but not to cover.
Okay.
I think 9.5 is too much.
Yep.
I think the Texans are going to keep it close. I think it's going to be 30-23, final score, Ravens win, exciting game, a lot of scoring. We saw that on Saturday between the Browns and the Texans. And I think at the end of the day, the Ravens at home, the extra time, the quality of the coaching staff, the ability to come up with something to confuse C.J. Stroud or get to C.J. Stroud, to get a fumble, an interception, whatever, one key moment, that makes the difference. Ravens win, but they don't cover the 9.5 point spread.
I hear you. It's scary, it's scary for me, too. I hear you. And wait, let me just add one more thing off of that, because you talked about like the Texans' defense a little bit. You know, they kind of are a little bit of like, they do what they do, and they just have a few little wrinkles within that every week. Right? It's not like the Ravens or some other teams where you just go, I don't know how they're going to attack us this week. It's kind of just like, wait, we know what they play, but which one of those are they going to pick against this formation or against that formation or that personnel set? And that'll be interesting, too, because the Ravens are a team that will be extremely aggressive. They're not afraid to go, wait, we have a good feel that you're going to be in this, and you're the Texans, and you like to take away all these 10 and 15-yard throws over the middle. Fine, take them away. Here's 50 over the top to Rashad Bateman. That, I'm just saying, again, I'm only picking a 10-point win, but that to me could be the way maybe the Ravens end up stomping them by more if that were to happen, and they kind of got in a groove that way. Yo, what up, homies? Thanks for watching. Remember, subscribe to Chris Simms Unbuttoned. Right now, we got Sunday pod, right? So you can have it Monday morning. We recap all the action. Wednesday, it's the What the Happened podcast. We're going to get deep in the weeds on the key matchups of the week. And then Thursday, I'm picking games with that jerk Florio. So you know where to find us, homies. Keep watching. Peace out. We'll see you.